We'd been married for 10 years, long enough to know each other's triggers, long enough to weather arguments, long enough to think we could survive anything. Or so I believed. It started as a normal Sunday gathering at her parents' house. Extended family, laughter, the smell of food cooking, the usual small talk that somehow escalated into something much bigger. I had noticed tension brewing over the past few weeks. Nothing major, just subtle digs, lingering looks, half-finished sentences, but I chalked it up to stress and fatigue. That day, the fight started over something trivial, a comment about how I handled finances, a sentence meant to be humorous, but delivered with that condescending tone I'd come to dread. I replied calmly, pointing out the logic in my choices, hoping to diffuse the tension, but it didn't diffuse. It exploded. Voices raised, fingers pointed, accusations thrown across the room like knives. I remained seated, steady, watching as my wife escalated her anger. At one point, she stood over me, red-faced, finger pointed directly at my chest. "Apologize," she said, her voice shaking with fury. "Or leave, now." The room went silent. Her family froze, unsure of how to react. Some of them glanced at me, expecting me to cave, expecting me to bend under her rage. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not the woman I loved, but someone I barely recognized. I realized something in that moment. This wasn't about the fight. This was about control, about dominance, about her belief that her version of the story, her narrative, her anger, was more important than my feelings, my perspective, my dignity. I didn't apologize. I didn't leave. Instead, I sat there, calm, letting the weight of her words hang in the air. "I'm not apologizing for being honest," I said quietly, deliberately. "And I'm not leaving because this is my family too." Her eyes widened, shock evident. She hadn't expected that. No one had. "Do you hear yourself?" she spat. "You're embarrassing me. You're making me look weak in front of everyone." I shook my head. "I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm trying to be honest. And honesty isn't weakness. It's necessary." Her face twisted, frustration boiling over. She tried to shout, tried to force the narrative back under her control, but I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply held my ground. The room was tense. Her family watched in silence, some sympathizing with her, some quietly observing me. I realized then that this wasn't just a fight about finances, about decisions, or even about pride. It was a test of my limits, my boundaries, and my willingness to let her control my life with threats and ultimatums. I stood up slowly, looking around at everyone, meeting eyes with those who were watching. "I'm not leaving," I said again. "And I'm not apologizing for standing up for myself. I've been silent too long, letting manipulation pass as compromise. Not anymore." Her jaw dropped. She hadn't expected confrontation, hadn't expected resistance. The room shifted, tension still thick, but now I had reclaimed my space, my voice, my dignity. The fight ended soon after, though not in the way she intended. She stormed out, grabbing her purse, muttering under her breath, leaving me sitting with her family who were equally stunned and impressed. I realized then that the fight wasn't just about the argument, it was about exposing the way she treated me, and about finally refusing to participate in the dynamic she had created. That night, at home, she tried to talk, to apologize in her own way, to explain herself. But I had already made a decision. I wasn't apologizing for my honesty. I wasn't leaving for her threats. I wasn't participating in the betrayal of my own dignity. Over the next few weeks, the tension between us didn't disappear, but my perspective shifted. I saw patterns I had ignored for years, the subtle control, the manipulation, the insistence that my feelings were secondary to her ego. I realized that sometimes, choosing neither to apologize nor to leave isn't defiance, it's self-respect. We eventually sought therapy, not to repair what had already been broken beyond recognition, but to understand the dynamics that led us there. I learned that standing firm, refusing to be bullied or coerced, is sometimes the only path to clarity. Looking back, that moment at her parents' house wasn't just a fight. It was a revelation, a turning point. A moment where I chose myself over fear, honesty over submission, and dignity over compliance. And for the first time in years, I felt free.